is Around Town Movers. Timothy and the guys recently moved me, and I am and was totally satisfied with a sometimes not so fun experience moving. Call Timothy at 770-378-4708 and make it a good move and a good experience. Around Town Movers for that local or cross-country move. Timothy, Around Town Movers, in my opinion, are the best. That's Around Town Movers. Call them.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Welcome back to the Business Hour. We're here with Michael McCool of CPC Advisors, an investment and wealth management advisory firm based here in Atlanta. And we've been talking about what goes into evaluating a client's current situation and how to identify goals that a person might have in retirement, when you can retire, and how, what the quality of your lifestyle might be when you retire. Let's talk a little bit about developing that plan, because there are specifics to that plan, and then tell us about the implementation of the plan, and then we'll go on to talking about monitoring the plan, because because as you mentioned, the plan is almost like a living document.
That's right.
It has to be adjusted as you move forward. So how do you develop the plan?
So the developing the plan is so we've identified, got a good handle on their current situation, identified, what they want to accomplish, and retirement is usually the big, the big concern for people. It's like they want to make sure they retire. Another way of saying that is, I don't want to run out of money in retirement. But also on that road to retirement, it's also, I want to, fund college education either for kids or grandkids, and also there's another concern is maybe want to be philanthropic or leave something for my heirs, and also there's other considerations. Maybe they have elderly parents that need to be cared for. So as you travel to retirement, it's all these are other considerations that have to be considered. So that's part of the developing the plan, because it's not a straight line.
I would imagine, that there are a lot of baby boomers now who delayed having kids and who, approaching retirement or maybe in retirement, have kids that are in college.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, not even talking about the grandkids and wanting to do something for the grandkids, but, I would imagine there are a lot of baby boomers who are having that to consider. And that's a really significant expense in many cases. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars cumulatively.
Right. It can be. So that is... from what I see in my experience, a main goal for parents is like, okay, I want to live and retire. I want to retire in a lifestyle I'm comfortable with, but also, as you mentioned, college can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So working that into the plan is very important, and there are resources for that. There's 529 plans, saving outside of retirement programs, and also. The 529 plans, and we also look at, you can borrow, parents and students can borrow for college as well. So that can be a resource, but maybe you don't want to overdo it. The borrowing to fund college. So it is a balancing act. So we want to make sure that
the pros and cons of borrowing a loan. I mean, that's probably a really valuable service that you provide, advisory services, just evaluating, because I don't think a lot of parents, much like borrowing for anything, think of the long-term implications of borrowing for school. And I'm wondering if you, to use a real-world example, have you found yourself in a position where someone is looking at a combination of private schools and public schools, and the difference in the cost would be hundreds of thousands of dollars in aggregate, but also have you found yourself having to suggest that maybe the student be encouraged to be eligible for something like in the state of Georgia, where there are scholarships available to students maintaining grades. Have you found yourself in that situation where you're saying you might want to encourage your child to be eligible for a Hope Scholarship?
Yes, that happens. I think throughout the planning process, our clients tell us what they want to do. I won't tell them, oh, your kid must go to an in-state public school. What we do is show them what to expect if you want to fund the college education at a private school versus in-state public school. And then it's like if they depending on which road they want to take, what they want to do, then we say here's what you can expect going forward, and you will need to do these things to make that possible. So that may influence them. Ultimately, it's the client's decision on how they want to handle it.
Right. If you have a child that is really thinking about an Ivy League school, or a Duke or a Stanford, to use some examples of expensive schools, it's really not your role to say no, you can't do that. But rather, you tell me if this is correct. You are saying this is what we need to do if you're going to achieve that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You show them, okay, just let them know what to expect with the path that they take. Or I don't know if you can expect 100% accuracy, but it's like, okay, here's what you will need to do.
And so now we're shifting into implementing the plan, and we've been talking about that in general. And I suppose that goes hand in hand with monitoring the plan.
Correct.
If you're implementing a plan for a savings goal, that's probably easy to monitor. But what other aspects are monitored along the way?
Yeah, it's you mentioned implementing the plan is you come across some things that need to be done immediately, like for most of our clients after the planning process, and I help them. Everybody at CP helps them implement these must-do steps. It may be updating wills, making sure that you're contributing the maximum amount to your retirement plan, or you're doing the 529 for college, or doing something, or make sure you have adequate coverage, and we will assist our clients doing that. I think every plan I've done, there's 2 or 3 things that the client needs to do to get on the road to achieve their goals.
You mentioned the 529 plan. Is that something that you might suggest that a person begin to establish?
Right, I think
sooner rather than later.
Yes, very, very much sooner rather than later, because one of the most important things that you have in investing is time. So if you start, doing a little bit, saving in a 529 when your child is first born, you're spreading out the cost of college over many years. Plus, you have your investments working for you over that time, so you can. There's tax advantages for doing a 529, and then you can get tax-free growth, and then qualified distributions are tax-free as well. So I think starting earlier is a key component, both for that and for saving for retirement.
This is the point at which I obligatorily mentioned that I have a brother, Richard, who made at least 2 really good moves in his life. One was his wife, Aurora, and the other is that he invested for decades while he was at UPS the maximum allowable into their thrift plan, their 401k plan, and so when they had stock splits, he was still continuing to put the maximum amount into that plan. And I think that the yield has far exceeded his expectations, and any of his friends who might have balked at the fact that he was putting the maximum allowable into the plan realized he did the right thing.
Right, that's right. And I think it's very difficult for people to project 20, 30, 40 years out. And you might think that, this is such a small amount, it may not make a difference, but you get that compounding over decades. It's really makes a big difference.
Yeah, savings alone, even out whether you are eligible for a 401k plan or you are working for a company that makes it easy to save through a 401k plan, just saving and compounded interest is almost magical when it comes to decades of that compounded interest. So, monitoring the plan, is this something that you do on a semi-annual basis, quarterly basis, annual basis, biannual? How do you do that?
Typically, it's annually update, but if we need to if something comes up in the meantime, something happens in a client's life that necessitates a change, before the annual checkup, yes, we'll definitely address that.
After the downturn in the market in 2008, did you find that a lot of your clients needed to talk to you maybe more than once that year?
Yes,
or the following year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but actually, for many years after that, I think. And I think the best thing, we'll get into investments investments a little later, but I think that the investing part is part of the plan, and I think at that time during that period, a lot of clients felt like they had to do something, either selling everything, I can't stand anymore, I need to get out of the market, but after. Sticking to the plan was the right thing to do, and it was very difficult to do at that time. But now we look back and say, boy, aren't you glad you kept contributing or stayed invested at that time, because it's very difficult, but...
Yeah, I would imagine that you had to counsel and advise folks over and over to stay the course and to not to do anything rash, and that you were temporarily like a psychologist, a handholder that was explaining as best you could that making any sudden moves and wholesale changes in their portfolio was not the way to go.
That's correct. Right. That's correct. I think I think there might be doing something at that in the heat of the moment might make you feel better temporarily, but longer term it's not beneficial.
So you work with clients to affect the nature of their investments. Tell us a little bit about how you do that and how that's related to achieving goals.
Well, most people need to have their money work for them to achieve their goals. So, and when we accomplish that through investing. And so after meeting with the clients and saying, developing the plan, implementing plan, and ongoing monitoring, it's like, okay, to achieve your goals, you need to invest. And I start out by saying, by explaining what the roles of stocks are in the portfolio and the roles of bonds, and the roles of stocks are for growth. It's like you buy stocks and expect them to be worth more in the future than they are today. Bonds are think of those as the safety of the portfolio. You won't make these are investment grade bonds. You don't expect to make a lot of money owning bonds, but at the same time, you shouldn't expect to lose a lot of money owning bonds.
Michael McCool with CPC Advisors. We've been talking about investing, and we're going to continue talking about investing to achieve goals. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Cook Immigration Partners is your passport through the immigration maze. Whether it's help with E-Verify in your business, or help in how to document a new employee under the new I-9 rules, or if you marry a foreign national, Cook Immigration Partners is your best choice for a legal advocate. Call us today at 866-286-6200. That's 866-286-6200, or visit us on the web at www.immigration.net.
45 years of experience is behind the most trusted name in auto transportation. Passport Transport, the first and finest today. That's why Passport Transport is the preferred auto transport for major auto manufacturers, concours, museums, tours, and collectors, and should be your choice from across the state to across the country. When you have the need, go to PassportTransport.com and enjoy the peace of mind referenced experience will give you. Passport Transport.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the americasbroadcastnetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Welcome back to the Business Hour. I'm Ron Camacho, your host, and we are here with Michael McCool of CPC Advisors, and we've been talking about what goes into creating a good financial management plan, some of the elements that go into creating that plan and implementing that plan and monitoring that plan. And now we've transitioned to talking about investing and how a client can invest to achieve goals. And before the break, we were talking about stocks and bonds. And, I've always had the impression that having stocks and bonds in your portfolio were part of the stability mechanism, if you will. Is there any measure of truth to that, Michael?
Right. Yeah, that's right. So, stocks are in the portfolio. They provide growth. So you can expect them to be worth more in the future than they are today, especially when you look 20 years out. But the road could be pretty rocky. There'd be a lot of ups and downs in that in those extended periods of times, and that's where it can be very emotional. Where you mentioned 2008 earlier. It's like, I don't want to own stocks. They keep going down. So to temper that volatility of those major ups and downs is you can introduce bonds into a portfolio. And I'm talking about high quality bonds now. And you think of them as they provide ballast, stability, or even the insurance of the portfolio. And the benefit of them is that you won't lose a lot. I think in the past 50 years, a bad year for bonds has been down 2%. A good year for bonds is you may make 6%. So that's the range you're talking about. Where with stocks, it could be from year to year, up 30% or down 30%. The really big swings. So combining the stocks and bonds in the portfolio can really dampen the volatility of the portfolio, and that's really important because when you're investing to achieve goals, one, you have to have the right amount. You want to stay invested. So if you can't handle or if you're not comfortable with having an all-stock portfolio, introducing bonds can dampen the volatility, the big upswings and downswings, and
there's something that just popped into my head is that I'll bet that relative to certain dimensions of their portfolio, that a lot of people, you have the stocks, you have bonds, you have 401k plans, right. You have your home, your personal property. Do you encounter a lot of folks who believe that that's where, because it's so tangible, they want to have a lot of their assets in their home?
It's a wide range. I think some people want to have their home paid off, quickly. So they would put extra income to that, or it's like, by the time I retire, I don't want to have have any house payments. So that's a goal for them as well. The one thing about a home is it may not be very, very liquid. You may be worth a lot, but tapping the equity in a home can be depending on what interest rates are, could be expensive, or just going through the process. And then, if your goal is to not to have a house payment, later in life, you're, to tap that liquidity, you're getting a, house payment again.
And what are some of the things that you have to consider that would make liquidity more beneficial than having your money wrapped up in an asset that is less liquid?
Right. I think the liquidity part, or having cash or safe investments that you can tap anytime, allow you to handle emergencies much better. You won't be forced to sell stocks at an inopportune time. Having the liquidity enables you to better stick with the plan. So that's a very good component, or a very big component of the overall plan. I mentioned stocks and bonds earlier, but having a cash reserve, 3 months, 6 months, it varies for different people. 3 to 6 months, maybe more of living expenses on hand for those emergencies.
And tell us about some of what those emergencies can be, because I know that a lot of people think they have some sort of an ironclad healthcare plan, for example, but not really.
Right.
That would be one of them, right?
That's correct. So it could be a major health issue where a lot of out-of-pocket expenses. It could be something, car accident, home repairs, not just regular maintenance, but something breaks at your home. And these could be, these can add up. They could be, consequential.
Speaking of real-world examples, and it's really pretty sad and unfortunate for folks who are living in hurricane and flood-prone areas.
Right.
But for them, I would imagine, and I don't know if you have clients that have homes or second homes in the Carolinas or on the Gulf Coast or other parts of the country, but the possibility for a devastating, a catastrophic event like a hurricane
right.
that wipes out your home. Not only are there people who don't really have flood insurance at all, but some people's homeowners insurance are not going to adequately cover 100% restoration and rebuilding. So there would be an example of something. So you factor that in as well?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that comes back into the early in the planning process when we talk about what kind of insurance you own. Are you covered? What would happen if it was a total loss? And one thing that for a lot of homes in coastal areas is for insurance, it used to be you have a flat dollar amount deductible, and one thing we've seen over the years is a lot of coastal homes have a percentage of the overall value deductible. So instead of having, you could have, the old policies may have had a few $1,000s or some limit deductible. It's a percentage of the rebuilding cost. So if you have a $500,000, it costs $500,000 to rebuild your home, it may be, the deductible could be a percentage of that.
So we've touched on having a balanced portfolio, but what do you personally consider to be the benefits of diversification in a balanced portfolio?
Right. So when you mention a balanced portfolio, it's really the ratio of stocks and bonds in the portfolio. And first thing that we look at is like, okay, dampen the volatility so that you stay invested. And secondly, it's you have to be aggressive enough to achieve your goals. But also you don't want to be too risk some money unnecessarily. So we look for, okay, how aggressive do I need to be to achieve those goals? And sometimes it's like, wow, you don't need to be that aggressive to do what you want to do later in life, or to fund college education and all these other things that you want to do.
Have you found yourself with overly exuberant clients who want to be very, very aggressive? We won't use any other term to characterize them, but they see someone, they know someone who made a killing some way and who want to take on a very risky investment, and you find yourself having to caution those folks? That's
right. There's some people that want to be, some investment somewhere. They know somebody that's like, boy, they made a lot of money owning it, and that's all they see was a lot of money being made. I think what you don't hear about is there could be similar investments where the downside is where you lose, you can lose a lot as well. So I think that's one of our roles, is like, okay, if a client presents something to me, an investment to me, and says, I'd like to do this, and a lot of times they'll just see the upside. I think it's my duty to say, okay, here's what can happen on the downside as well, and that can be with stocks as well. It can be I want to be all stocks all the time until they fall.
Right, and so does this fall into the category of cautioning people against trying to get rich quick and maybe getting rich slow and smart?
Right. I think that successful investing is a process, and it can take time. And I think what we're touching on is there's a difference between investing and speculating, and just realize there's a difference between the two, and don't take all your money to speculate. Have a clear investment process and investment plan.
What about rebalancing a portfolio? Do you find you've taken on clients who already have a pretty sophisticated and maybe very diverse, but not particularly well-balanced portfolio, and so you're going to work with them to gravitate toward a more balanced portfolio?
Correct.
How long might that take?
Right. So the rebalancing is, we've established a portfolio, the right ratio of stock bonds, or sometimes known as the asset allocation that's suitable for you. And over the past few years, let's say your portfolio is 70% stocks and 30% bonds. That's the right portfolio for you. And over the past few years, your with the stock market doing so well, it could be 80% or more. So the rebalancing is getting back to the correct allocation. And really what's that forcing us to do is selling high and buying low. So we've sold, rebalancing the portfolios lately is selling stocks and buying bonds. So we've got the portfolio back into balance, so it has the right risk characteristics, the right risk-reward characteristics that we needed. Otherwise, the portfolio just becomes too risky, too volatile if you don't rebalance.
We're going to talk a little bit more about diversification and a balanced portfolio, but we're going to be taking a break, and when we come back, I'm going to have you talk a little bit about tax efficiency. It's a major aspect of anyone's financial plan. We're here with Michael McCool of CPC Advisors, and we've been talking about smart financial management. And I dare say, with the use of a good financial planner, it could be relatively painless and very beneficial. That might sound tongue-in-cheek, but it's very true. We'll be back in a moment to talk with Michael McCool more about smart investing right after this break.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Karuchak. Have you ever wondered what doctors talk about amongst themselves? If you do, join us on the Doctor's Lounge and hear the doctors' conversations amongst themselves. Join me and my co-host, Dr. Hal Schertz, every Thursday morning, 8 to 9 a.m.
Get your pen and paper ready. If there's a move in your near future, I'm here to tell you that the folks I used and now recommend is Around Town Movers. Timothy and the guys recently moved me, and I am and was totally satisfied with a sometimes not so fun experience moving. Call Timothy at 770-378-4708 and make it a good move and a good experience. Around Town Movers for that local or cross-country move. Timothy, Around Town Movers, in my opinion, are the best. That's Around Town Movers. Call them.
Hi, this is Steve Ronaldo, host of the Classic Car Show on America's Web Radio. Just talking to you about antique car insurance. I think that if you're looking for the best coverage for your classic car, consider J.C. Taylor Insurance. They've been my insurer for years in this hobby and have the top rating of all of the insurance companies in the hobby. When you get ready for insurance, call J.C. Taylor or visit jctaylor.com on the Internet.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Welcome back to the Business Hour. We're here with Michael McCool of CPC Advisors, and we've been talking about basic principles of smart financial management and smart investing, good principles of portfolio diversification and balance. And before the break, Michael was talking about rebalancing a portfolio. One important consideration in all of this is our taxes. So tell us a little bit about tax efficiency.
Yeah, the tax efficiency, just like it sounds, you take taxes into consideration. So a lot of times it's not what you make, it's what you keep. So when we work with clients on tax efficiency, we consider, well, instead of regular corporate bonds, high-grade corporate bonds, maybe municipal bonds may be right for them. And that is, municipal bonds generate income that is federal income tax-free. Something else we do every year is we look at a client's portfolio and harvest gains and losses opportunistically, see if we can offset those to minimize taxes as well. And we also talk to clients, okay, do you have losses anywhere else that can be applied to the portfolio, or do you have gains anywhere else that need to be considered for by harvesting gains and losses? So those are the two big components. And then in retirement, tax efficiency is like, well, do I take more money out of my retirement plan and pay income taxes on that, or should I take income out of my regular individual investment portfolio? So balancing those in retirement is a big component as well to tax efficiency and minimizing taxes.
Are you finding, Michael, that you have more and more clients that want to be socially conscious, or at least have some of their investments reflect, for example, an interest in the environment or some other aspect that they want